Nikola Jokić just told the entire world he does not trust the Denver Nuggets with his future. Not in a press conference in Denver, not through his agent, in Serbia, after a FIBA qualifier. Like it was nothing. And Nuggets fans are only now realizing how much trouble this actually is. For months, everyone assumed Jokić would sign his extension the moment he was eligible. He became eligible back in the middle of June. Instead, he said, in his own words, that his plan is to sign next summer and stay with Denver for the rest of his career. Sounds nice. Sounds loyal. But read between the lines, because what he actually just did was tell the Nuggets to wait. And in the NBA, making a superstar wait is how franchises lose superstars. Let's slow down and understand why this is happening, because the money part alone should terrify every single person who runs that front office. Jokić has been eligible to sign a 4-year extension worth $278 million since the middle of June. That is a massive number. Most players would sprint to the table for that kind of security. But Jokić is not most players. He is a 3-time MVP. He is, according to a growing number of people around the league, the best basketball player alive. And because of new rules in the collective bargaining agreement, if he waits just one more year and signs as a free agent instead of an early extension, he becomes eligible for a 5-year deal worth $359.5 million. That is not a small difference. That is $81 million sitting on the table. That is enough to buy multiple NBA franchises outright. So when you hear that Jokić wants to wait, understand exactly what that means. It is not disloyalty. It is math. Cold, simple math. And Jokić just chose math over comfort. Here's the part that should really worry Denver. Jokić is currently under contract for one more season at $59 million, with a player option the year after that worth $62.8 million. On paper, that means the Nuggets have him locked up through at least 2 more seasons, but a player option is exactly that, an option. It belongs to him, not to Denver. If Jokić wanted to walk away and test true free agency in 2 years, he could. Right now, there is nothing stopping him except his own stated preference to stay. And stated preferences change. Ask the Toronto Raptors how stated preferences worked out for them. Ask the Milwaukee Bucks. This league is littered with franchises who trusted a superstar's word and got burned when circumstances shifted. So why is this such a big deal? Because trust is the entire foundation of a superstar and franchise relationship, and Jokić just publicly signaled that he does not trust Denver enough to lock in early. Think about what early extensions actually represent. They are not just financial transactions. They are statements of confidence. When a superstar signs early, he is telling the world, I believe in this front office. I believe in this coaching staff. I believe we are building something that is going to win. When a superstar waits, especially when he is leaving real money on the table to do it in the short term before an even bigger long-term payout, he is quietly saying, I am not fully convinced yet. I want to see what happens first. And what exactly does Jokić want to see? Let's talk about what Denver actually looks like right now, because this context matters enormously. Last season, Jokić averaged 27.7 points, 12.9 rebounds, and 10.7 assists per game. Read those numbers again. That stat line is absurd. He became the very first player in NBA history to lead the entire league in both rebounds and assists in the same season. Think about that. Centers do not lead the league in assists. Point guards do not usually lead the league in rebounds. Jokić did both, at the same time, in one season. And despite doing something that has literally never happened before in the history of professional basketball, he still finished second in MVP voting. Second, not first. To Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder. That MVP snub matters here, and if you think it does not connect to his contract decision, you are not paying attention. Jokić has spent years putting up numbers that should make him the automatic, unquestioned best player in the league every single season, and he keeps getting passed over because the Nuggets keep failing to build a team good enough to support the narrative. Individual greatness without team success starts to look, in the eyes of voters and analysts, like empty stats on a middling roster. And Jokić knows that. He has to know that. So when he says he wants to wait a year before signing, ask yourself what he is actually waiting to see. Is he waiting to see if Denver can build a roster that finally gets him back to a championship level? Is he waiting to see if the front office makes real upgrades this offseason instead of standing pat? Is he simply protecting his own leverage in case this front office does something that makes him want to explore his options elsewhere in 2 years? Denver should be losing sleep over every single one of those possibilities, because all three point to the same uncomfortable truth. Jokić is not fully sold. Now let's talk about what this means for the front office practically, because contract timing in the NBA is never just about one player. It is about roster building for years into the future. When a superstar signs early, it gives management financial certainty. They know exactly what the cap situation looks like. They can plan trades, free agency targets, and roster construction years in advance because the biggest variable, the franchise player's contract, is locked in. When that same superstar delays, it creates a fog of uncertainty that hangs over every single roster decision the front office makes. Do they go all in on win-now moves for a player who might walk in 2 years? Do they hold back and stay cautious, potentially wasting prime years of arguably the greatest offensive weapon in franchise history? Every trade, every free agent signing, every long-term commitment now has to be filtered through the question of whether Jokić is actually going to be there long-term. That uncertainty alone can paralyze a front office. And here is the brutal truth nobody in Denver wants to hear. If the Nuggets have a mediocre season, if they get bounced early in the playoffs again, if the front office fails to make the kind of aggressive moves that show Jokić they are serious about building a true contender, this decision to wait becomes the first domino. Because once Jokić becomes a true free agent instead of extending early, every single team in the league with cap space is going to come calling. Miami will call. The Lakers will call. Whoever has money and a pitch will call. And letting things get to that point, even if Jokić ultimately re-signs, is an unforced error that never needed to happen. Some people will tell you this is nothing to worry about. They will say Jokić has been loyal his entire career, that he plays for the name on the front of the jersey, that Denver is his home now and he is not the type to chase a bigger market or a flashier situation. And to be fair, his track record does support some of that. He has never publicly demanded a trade. He has never thrown his front office under the bus in the media. But loyalty has a shelf life in professional sports, and that shelf life is directly tied to whether a team keeps building around its star the right way. Loyalty does not survive years of watching a front office fail to capitalize on a generational talent's prime. Here is the hot take, and I am not backing down from it. This is a warning shot, whether Jokić intended it that way or not. He just told the Nuggets in public that he is not ready to commit early, and he did it while sitting on the single greatest statistical season by a center in the history of the sport. If Denver's front office does not treat this offseason like a 5-alarm fire, if they do not aggressively upgrade this roster to prove to Jokić that they are serious about winning another championship, they are going to look back at this moment in 2 years and realize this was the exact instant they started losing him. You do not get a talent like Nikola Jokić and get a second chance to prove you deserve him. You either build fast or you watch him walk, and by then it will be far too late to fix it. So here's my question for you, and I want a real answer in the comments. Is Jokić making the smart business decision here, simply maximizing his own value the way any professional should? Or is this the first sign that Denver's window with him is closing faster than anyone wants to admit? Drop your take below. I am reading every single comment on this one.